summaries for all the other couples who aren't them,
Uh-huh.
but give them a 10-minute summary, and then... But that 10-minute summary is just the audio of us talking about them from the other episode. And then we leave the video going for the rest of the episode, and it's just...
When I re-upload the video and I title it, and it's like, oops, I made a typo. I left the 0 out of top 10. Wait, no, I didn't. This is top 1 couples. All P-Jill all the time. Welcome, everyone, to the Adventures in the P-Jill cast.
Welcome to
P-Jill all the time.
P-Jill today, P-Jill tomorrow.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is this is 98.7 PGLL all day, all time.
You're taking such a long time this is how we're opening this episode.
No. Yeah. I fully realize I'm going to have to cut in some, I'm going to have to fade in somewhere in here.
Talk about it for 10 more minutes.
Yeah,
I'm
Devin Francis, tied for world's number 1 P-Jill fan.
And I am Kit Francis, tied for world's number 1 P-Jill fan. I am the founder of P-Jill. I think.
It was a co-founding kind of. It was teamwork.
Co-founder.
And you're watching 98.7 PGILL
co-siblings
radio podcast YouTube. What P-Jill novel are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about Secret of the Prince's Tomb, P-Jill novel number 7?
Yes, this is one that features Jillian and PJ slightly less than some other parts of canon, but we still love it anyways because we're just so crazy.
Macy was there.
We're just so crazy about them dang kids.
Their child, Macy.
Yes.
Did you see that coming?
I did not. Honestly.
It explains a lot, though, doesn't it?
It does. I think the mom appears in that episode. No, she doesn't. Does she? Did she say anything about her parents in that episode? I don't remember. It's been 11 months.
You can't prove she doesn't because you don't remember.
Who knows? We will, because next month we're going to have to talk about, in a couple weeks we're going to have to talk about that episode in the 2018 recap. Secret of the Prince's Tomb is written by Marianne Herring and Marshall Younger.
Did I make the camera crooked?
I don't know. Why did you move it?
Because...
And any news? Oh yeah, Charles, World of Odyssey podcast was requesting prayer for a whole personal issue going on. We won't get into details, but if you guys could pray for all that's happening, great. Thanks.
Summary.
Prince's Tomb, Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Dans cet livre. This is probably my favorite out of all the books so far. I'm going to say it. And I want to say before I summarize it, right from the get-go, I want to highlight...
Did you call what was going to happen?
A comment in the front, where they have, comments from readers.
Did it spoil it for
No. I was looking at the comments at the beginning.
I didn't read them.
As I do, and there was the same one as before. There's these books talk about God a lot more than the Magic Trios books do. No duh. We've talked about that comment before. We've made our peace with that comment.
No, we haven't. That's why you're bringing it up.
I want to look in at a comment from Luke, age 9, who said that this book is better than any book he has ever read, and he reads a lot. I was today on the Oddcast, we're gonna find out if Luke is a bad judge of literature, or if he just doesn't read as much as he thinks he does, or if he's right. Let's be optimistic. And then I read it and I was wasn't bad. That was probably the best out of the book so far.
Yeah, but the fact that he sent it in means he was talking about the other books. So...
Alright, sorry Luke, you're bad at media criticism.
Bad.
See, I thought I was
9-year-old.
I was
actually, he's not 9 anymore.
I was is this a second edition? Why do they have comments? But you're right, it's probably just about a past book. I'm sorry, Luke. You're bad with criticism.
You're bad. You're
incorrect.
Bad. What's that from? I see that so much.
I have no idea what you're talking about. This rings no bells within my noggin.
But I'm not sure.
What, you're bad?
Yeah, just you're bad. It's from a thing. I don't remember what. Anyway.
Is that Y-O-U-R or Y-O-U''re that you're saying?
Well, it was a thing they said, but there was no spelling.
No, but were they saying it you are bad, or that is your bad, you messed up?
You are bad.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't ring any bells in my mind.
I feel like it was James. He said it to Bruce.
What happens in Secret of the Prince's Tomb, Victoria?
This episode has some plot twists.
So does this book.
Both. Did you predict the plot twist?
Which plot twist?
The one at the end.
Which one specifically? That it was Joseph?
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't. I was reading and I was zoning out, and I was about to fall asleep and they're like, "Oh, it's Joseph's tomb."
They were talking about.
Wait, what?
They're talking about a Hebrew prince from a long time ago who was in jail and then became the prince. So I was like, "Yeah, it's Joseph."
He wasn't.
He was second in command of the country.
Yeah, but they didn't call him.
He was the vizier.
Prince.
They were like,
yeah. So was Jafar. I assumed he was a bad guy.
I figured you would make a connection to Aladdin.
Also, Jesse is dumb and has never seen Aladdin. Beth is dumb. These are on the same level as the TV show, let's be honest.
This one wasn't. This one was good.
This one was actually better than lots of the shows. But Beth has never seen Aladdin because they say the word vizier and she's like, vizier? And I'm like, you idiot.
I mean, maybe it's because she was like, "Oh, I'm reading it." I don't know. Or was it just said to her? I guess it was just said to her.
Said to her.
You know what? Maybe she hasn't watched it in a while. There's usually a period where you're young where it's like, oh, you haven't watched the classic Disney films for a while before you go back, and then you like actually remember the things that are going on.
I'm going through that phase again in my life. That's why I'm gonna watch all the movies again next year.
Yeah, I don't know. Canonically, they have not yet said how long it has been precisely since she last watched Disney's Aladdin 1990 something.
I don't think it was from the 90s.
Surely it must be.
No, I'm pretty sure it's from the 80s.
No way. It's no way it's older than like 1990.
It's gonna come out next year. We're both wrong.
I forgot about that. This is great. 92.
Darn it.
92.
Darn
See?
it. Wait, what year did the TV show come out? I might be right still. 94 to 95. That show's as old as you are. It even came out.
Yeah, I was also born in 94 to 95.
20 days before you were born. It
was the herald of my birth.
20 days before you came out.
A grim portent to foretell what was to come.
What do you mean? This show was great. There was like a dark Aladdin. There was an evil cat lady that everyone was in love with for some reason, predicting the future. I also think she had the power to predict the future. There was like this guy who was like a weird Jafar that sucked and was really prissy, and he tried to like marry Jasmine a bunch.
So thank you for listening to 98.7 Aladdin.
The crossover episode with Hercules.
Aladdin TV show fan cast here. Vizier. Joseph. It was Joseph.
There was like a lot of almost child murder in this book.
I assume you picked up on the point where there was almost guard murder that the kids committed.
Yeah, that too. I was like, oh, this is the part Devin was talking about.
So what happens in the book? Take me through it, Victoria.
Okay.
For those who haven't read it, which I assume is literally everyone.
Take you on this journey. Get on my magic carpet. Yep. And we'll take you on a magic carpet ride. Mm-hmm. So it starts off in Olympus when Hades is...
Please actually go through it, Victoria. We have 2 different types of cookie dough to make tonight. It's already 7:30.
Well, now I feel pressured.
Good. I'm trying to pressure you.
So, in this book, we have Beth and we have Patrick, and I still don't like either of them. And they are about to start school. Same. And they're like, man, I hate school. And I feel no sympathy for them whatsoever.
That's fair.
I'm in college.
And in university. This isn't America. We don't have to say college when we mean university.
I'm in Monsters U. And then they're talking with Wit, and they're like, man, it's hard to have faith when people are garbage towards you. And I'm like, yeah. And then Patrick's like, you know what's not harder? Slavery. And I'm like, where did that come from? And that's like, I was a slave in the imagination station. That, like, I find that offensive. He's like, I really meant it. And I'm like, what are you doing? And then it's like, I think I have a program for you, Patrick. And then Patrick's like, what? Are you going to make me a slave? Because school's worse. And I'm like, what is this book? You do admit, this is exactly how the book starts.
No, it was. And I was like, Patrick. Patrick,
He's
stop.
a horrible child. And then it's like, nah, I'm not going to make you slaves. And I realize at this point, they've gone on an imagination station adventure for every single day for the last, I don't know how long. I guess, I don't know, a couple weeks of their time.
I feel like that would just, like, mess with your brain.
It would. I feel like...
Like, just the jet lag of it.
I have the headcanon that they don't understand normal reality anymore, and they start feeling panicky when they're not in the imagination
like Renee,
station. Yeah. So they need to just be in it.
Wait, come on, need to get
They need to get their fix. I'm worried about their parents, and how their parents feel about this. Because Patrick was like, oh, are we going to be slaves today? Like, that's a thing. Mm-hmm. I was imagining them going back home to their parents and them being like, how...
they're staying with their grandparents this summer.
Yeah, their parents Skyped them or whatever. And they're like, first off, those aren't your real grandparents. You need to get out of the house.
Oh, no.
It turns out it's M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit. I just spoiled that movie for everyone who hasn't seen it.
I feel like the trailer probably...
The trailer spoils the entire movie. It doesn't matter.
Could you imagine if that's like the end of this arc of the books, as it turns out that their grandparents are serial killers? That would be
such a better, like, narrative jump than anything else we've had so far.
We're just taking full
could you imagine, like,
shift into fifth gear. Were they cannibals too? I don't know.
No,
I didn't watch the movie. I just saw the trailer.
They were just really crazy. Although they made it seem like they were going to be, but then they weren't. And then it's just like, oh, they're crazy. And you're kind of so disappointed by, like, how lackluster it is. You wish they were cannibals. At least that was my experience.
I'm so glad that you're here to explain bad horror movies to me all the time.
You need it because you don't know.
I know. You fulfill such an important niche on the show.
It's my only purpose. And so, but could you imagine though if, like, this arc ends and then the next one starts and it's like, oh, they haven't come by Wit's End today, and then the day ends and the next day starts and they still haven't come by, and then Wit's like, I don't know what's going, something must be wrong, and then he thinks that their grandparents weren't their grandparents, and he goes to, like, kill their grandparents.
As you do.
As one does.
Yeah.
And then he finds out that they just realized how, like, bad it was for them mentally to spend so much time in the imagination station. And they were just taking a break. Here's
my guess. Either it turns out they're still in the imagination station from yesterday, a la Inspiration Station. They've been in there for like 72 hours now.
I don't doubt that.
They're at home and their brains have literally melted out of their ears from prolonged radio wave exposure, high-intensity radio wave exposure.
Novacom. Yeah. They go home and they just build birdhouses and yell at their grandparents.
Yeah, Breezely chips.
There was a short story I had to read this year for my literature prose class.
It's such a bad summary. They haven't even gotten in the imagination station
yet.
The
Belt. And it was, like, made in the period of time after World War II where, like, technology was changing and people were stressed out about technology. It was written by...
Sorry, what were you saying? Industrial Revolution?
Okay.
It
was written by, like, Ray Bradbury.
Okay. 451.
And it's, these kids, and they are in this nursery all the time, and it has, like, all these projections, and, like, the walls change, and
It's
the
cucks.
environments change. Pretty much, yeah. Like, one of the hologram rooms in Cucks. It's basically the same thing.
We need to call by a different name when we're on camera so people
yeah,
know
we
what we're
do.
talking about. I always
Kingdom
forget.
Hearts Union Cross
I always
is what that
forget.
stands for. I
always
don't.
forget.
Every time I say it, I feel bad. It stands for Kingdom Hearts Union Key. So then they're, like, in a safari belt. I had to look up what a belt is. It's, like, an area in a safari, basically, in Africa.
Okay, thank you for explaining.
Yeah, I had to look it up. And so then...
You're like, man, that's belt
No, that's... I thought my teacher was saying felt, so I kept on writing felt.
Mm-hmm.
And
the
so...
felt, the people who have just been, like, roped before.
So the parents, like, go in, and then every now and then they see, like, gory details to come. Turn it off if you're not mentally prepared. The dad, like, sees his wallet on the ground. It's, like, covered in blood. There's, like, animals, because it's, like, a safari kind of area. And then
is this going to end up being relevant to this in the end?
Yes.
Okay.
So they always hear, like, far off in the distance they see animals, but they're like, oh, there's walls, they're just projections, the animals can't get us. And they realize the kids have been training the animals, and the screams they hear in the distance are the screams of projected parents that they made. So the animals are trained and conditioned to murder the parents, and then at the end, like, the parents try to turn off the room and stuff, and the kids start freaking out because they can't be in it. And then the parents are like, okay, one more time, then we're going technology-less, and we're going to move to a cabin in the woods for, like, a month so you two can get this out of your
cabin in the
system.
woo's is a whole nother story about
weird
technology.
I was like, don't move to a cabin in the woods. The aliens will get you. And then the kids are like, okay. And then the parents are like, oh, it's been 5 minutes. We should go check on them. And then they go in, and the kids lock the door on the outside, and then they get eaten by lions. And then it ends. But, like, they spent too much time around technology, and it warped their brains, and that's why. What I'm saying is...
edgy
Patrick
New Yorker
and
editorialist Ray Bradbury.
Patrick and Beth are going to
get eaten by lions.
Get all their guardians murdered, because they're going to melt them in the imagination station.
Cool. I mean, I feel like there was already an episode where they almost got eaten by lions. I'm pretty sure when they visited
Yeah, but now it's going to be their guardians, and they're going to be evil and get everyone killed.
So it was good, then?
They're going to get killed.
Oh, well, that's maybe not good.
Yeah.
Speaking of, like, figuring out this current arc, is there one? Because this story ended...
I don't think there is.
At first I was like, okay, there's no drive here, but I was like, thinking back to the Magic Treehouse books, because that's what this is. Usually, there were frequently, like, the first book of a series of 4, it's like you don't really know what's going on, and then at the end, it's like, oh, you just found the first part of clues, of which there are always precisely 4 parts.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, wait till the end. And that's when the hook will get you. And then there was nothing. And I was like,
didn't they send that guy back in, like, the last book? Yeah, so, like, there was supposed to be something at the end of this book. You know what I think happened? I think the book was written, and then it was sent off to be published. Mm-hmm. And then they realized, oh no, we didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And they're like, whoops, guess we'll do something in the next one.
And the thing is, not just like we're like, oh, we noticed a pattern in a 3 before. Like, these books are literally sold bundled together, 3 books together at a time in series like that. Is how they're published, in addition to being published individually. So if there's nothing here, then who knows? Maybe that means there's just not going to be an arc for 7 to 9, and then in book 10, there's something they're going to do something.
Book 10, everyone dies. Okay, so they
go to the future. They go to, like, Fallout. They go to Fallout 76.
And then they see a woman walking towards them. She has a fur
Pam,
coat,
who Death forgot, and giant glasses.
Giant glasses, giant lips.
And the coolest big old sword.
And a really interesting voice.
Yes, hello.
She clips through the ground. She floats towards them.
Victoria, because she escaped the program. She infected everything.
That's why.
Just like the Blacker virus, she infected the imagination station.
I'm so much more interested in these books now.
The lost part 4 of the Final Pam. Finally, it's been years.
It's book 0 of the imagination station.
The origin story.
How the imagination station was first created in album 5. Okay.
What happens in this book?
Wait, I want to see how far we are in. 20 minutes.
Good.
Perfect.
It just makes me all the happier knowing that, like, no one ever even watches these videos anyways when we talk about the books, because no one cares about these books. So
including us.
No one ever even has to, like, suffer through all of this, like, this trite nonsense that we're spewing.
Okay. Oh, I hate us so much.
They get into the imagination station.
And there's
I'd like to imagine
everywhere.
probably page 5.
It was page 11, Devin. Don't be silly. We can't have things move that quickly.
But there was no prologue in this one, which I liked. I
That's
finally dispensed with the
true.
prologue, since it was basically the same every time. But since they wrapped up all previous story points now at all, it's like, what would you put in the prologue? There's no more mysterious letters.
Oops.
They're not chasing
and
Hughes
then chapter
anymore.
1 starts. The words, whoops, we forgot.
Whoopsie daisy.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, here we go.
Put this book back in the oven.
And then that's how we come back to Ray Bradbury.
Yeah.
See, it all comes full circle.
Well, that's it for today's
Goodbye, everyone.
Oddcast
Thank you
episode.
for watching the PJLcast.
I almost did press stop.
Yeah, thank you
and
for
then
not
we
doing
would've
that.
Just started
I was worried you were
again.
going to accidentally
We
click.
would have just redone the entire
Especially now that there's,
episode
like,
instead of
touch-sensitive
from scratch.
mouse pad.
Do you want to summarize the episode?
Sure.
The book?
To get into the station, they're in ancient Egypt. They got, like, kind of sweet digs on. Not, like, too high class, but, like, hey, we're not slaves. Not
Patrick's
us.
like, I'm not a slave. Yes, slaves.
Not in here, because I'm not at school. Am I right, fellow kids?
Being oppressed by the man, and they're all like weeping on the ground. He's like, haha, I have it so much
Am I
worse
right?
than you.
Follow me on Instagram.
Man, I was just hoping someone would, I don't know, hit Patrick really hard with a stick.
So,
Like they would have like a make a man out of you sequence.
just
and
let us
hit
get
him
through the
with a
summary
stick.
so we can talk about all of it in detail. So, they get in Egypt. They meet Tabitha. She's Hebrew. They don't know that because they said Habiru, and apparently that was too complicated for the kids to figure out.
Okay, let me just say, I was at one point, probably about 20 pages before the Joseph reveal, I was like, wait a sec. That thing, I was like, haha, I'm gonna make a joke in the Oddcast about how if you read this wrong, it would say Hebrew. But that might be insensitive, so maybe I won't. And then it turned out
Because, I mean, I figured from the literally first time they say the word, when they're like, oh, these Habiru, they're people that's too powerful and they only worship one god, so we need to, like, kill all their babies and stuff. And apparently that was enough for Victoria to figure out what was going on.
But, no, I knew they were Christians. I just didn't know
They're not
specifically.
Christians. I'd like to point out they're very much not Christians.
You know what I mean? I knew that they
Does
were
it-
I didn't know
They're
Hebrew.
Jewish.
I knew they were Jewish.
Yeah.
I didn't think, like, oh, specifically Hebrew, because that's not what it said. But
Which is the
like,
same thing as Jewish, yes?
Yeah.
Yes?
So I thought it was just like, that was their family name. Like, that was their last name.
All of them. The whole
Yeah.
race of people.
Yeah. I thought it was just like a big family. Like
They are a big family.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not wrong.
Except you were, because you didn't realize it was Hebrew. You did realize these were the Israelites, yes?
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay, I'm glad we've laid that down. Good. I was really worried for a second.
I didn't
there.
realize what time period, though. I knew.
You know, the other time when the Israelites were in Egyptian captivity
I didn't realize.
and made into slaves.
I didn't realize it was before Moses.
Well, Egypt doesn't play much of a role in the Bible after Moses, except for when Jesus escapes there.
Your heart still have. I got a filling this morning. Stop.
Oh, good
Do you
gracious.
have any idea how tired I was when I read this book?
I'm glad Mom isn't down here to hear this.
I was so tired. I just wanted to I was gonna sleep, but then I read the book instead. I was literally, like, completely zoned out, completely 100%, and I saw the words, Joseph's tomb, and that brought me back from the brink of death, and I was like, wait, what's going on
Didn't bring
now?
him back, though. So...
At first I was like, oh my gosh, are they going to be like, oh, we were there in the Bible, we brought the bones to Moses, and they didn't. I was like, oh, thank God.
And then they open the Old Testament, and their names are in it, and they're like,
No, I'm just imagining they, like, open a part to the random part in the Bible, and Beth sees the word Beth, and she's like, it must be me, and it's just someone named Beth. But she thinks it's
like,
her.
I was the mother of John the Baptist the whole time.
Oh, wait, we haven't done that. I guess we're going to do that program tomorrow. We haven't done it.
Yeah, I'm going to give birth tomorrow. That's going to be a real trip. I'm sure my grandparents will be really eager to let us come back to Wits End after they hear about that particular adventure.
Apparently,
it's like It's like The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and they're like 40 by the time they come back.
Apparently... This is real time travel, though.
No, it's not.
Station.
That's the thing, though. This is finally the book where they started laying down the law, and they're like, this is not time travel.
It's a little late for them to do that now,
No, it's not. Marshall Younger has come in to save the day. He's wrenched control away from Paul McCusker, and he's like... Because also remember, you may not remember this from this one particular whatever album it was, and that they had this bonus feature where Marshall Younger said that he is was the keeper of the lore for Adventures in Odyssey.
I remember that.
Yeah. So that's why he's like, Paul, you are out. I need to come in.
You're fired!
I am jumping onto this sinking ship. I am going to right this wayward vessel, and we are going to get this back on tracks, on boat tracks. I'm going to stop
with the arcs, so we're not plagiarizing Magic Treehouse anymore.
Marianne Herring is just along for the ride through all of this, I guess.
Maybe that's why this book was better.
I mean, I think you wrote the last one, too, but
I feel like agony.
I feel like generally Marshall is, like, pulling things back together. He is yanking on the seams of this tattered doll, trying to...
I like to think that Beth and Patrick have been infected by the blackguard virus, because they...
Can we please summarize this so that we can, like, get into the particulars?
Yeah.
Just let me say what happens first.
Yeah, I thought we were done with the summary.
We are still in the first chapter, Victoria.
Oh, okay.
They arrive right at the cusp of the Egyptians deciding that Hebrew's no goo anymore, and so they're all starting to become slaves, and they know Tabitha, who's Hebrew, and they know the Prince of Egypt, who is substantially less important than it seems like he will be. And they go to the palace with him, and he's like, I don't care if the Hebrews are slaves, but I don't want Tabitha to be, because she's my friend. I would screw the rest of them, though. And they're like, oh no, everyone hates the Hebrews, so sorry, there's nothing you can do about it. So they go and try to help, and they're like, wow, we're all sad, because Joseph died like 100 years ago, so what are we going to do? God's abandoned us. And the kids are like, grave robbing? Sure, that sounds legit and cool, fun kid time activity that Wit definitely endorses. No parent complaints here.
I like to, I
so
don't think they're telling their parents what's going on.
They literally go grave robbing, not just breaking into a tomb, but literally grave robbing for the express purpose of going into a tomb, taking a rotten corpse and or bones, retrieving them from the tomb, and exhuming Joseph.
Freaking Beth is like, I don't want to take a mummy. That's horrible. And Patrick's like, don't worry.
They're super light.
Bones and powder and bandages. It's not going to be heavy. And she's
like, okay, cool.
She's like, oh, sweet. Let's do this.
I'll just put them in my pocket. I'll just grind them up like they did.
Friend, Joseph's a Pokemon now.
I'll just grind them up into a fine powder like they did in Europe in the 1700s, put them in my little pouch, stuff them in my pocket, we're all good to go. A little travel size bag you could take on an airplane. TSA problem, no thank you. And And
that way everyone got a little bit of Joseph they can just carry
yeah,
on.
I'll go a little
They call
around.
it their
Just
little bag of hope.
yeah, take that, pass that all around the table, just put a little line out on the ground, snort that right up. You're all good and full of hope for centuries to come. So they come back to like, nah, dude, his bones are solid. They're still there. Ain't no one snatched them up yet.
Horrible.
And that's the end of the story. The end.
Yeah, the story just ends. I was like, what was that? What was... Like, they suddenly realize, oh my gosh, this is Joseph. And they're like, okay, time to go. And then they leave.
They're like, it's going to be hundreds of years before Moses is here to free them from their slavery. Peace!
They're like, he's got this, and then they leave.
Eventually.
They go up to all the slaves who were like, one of them's recovering from near death. And they're just like, don't worry, it's gonna get better. Trust us. Bye!
And they're like, okay, we
and
believe
everyone's
you.
just like, okay, I believe you. And then they leave. And Patrick's like, I guess you're right, Wit. The slaves don't have it as bad as me in school. And the book ends.
Oh, it was a good butt. So, now that we've summarized
This happens within 3 pages, all of that.
Now that we've summarized the book.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, so I love the slavery thing. I was really glad, because Patrick, when he brings up the slavery thing at the beginning, right away, Whit is like, I don't think you know much about slavery, Patrick, or you wouldn't say things like that. I was like, thank you, Whit, for inserting...
I have a theory.
Thank you for inserting a modicum of perspective into this discussion. Also, I'd like to appreciate, Victoria, how in the first 2 pages of this book, we get 8 times more personality and traits and backstory for these kids than the last 6 books combined.
That's true. My face hurts so much. Everything tastes like
Apparently,
metal and
Patrick
blood.
also has like this super memory we didn't know about, because he's like, I can navigate back out through this tomb maze in the pitch blackness with my hands. Or he's Daredevil, one of the two. That's the next. That's what this arc is. This is the foreshadowing in this book. The next one, Whit drops him an ooze. The next one, he goes into the sewer and becomes a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Arc complete.
I like to think that Beth and Patrick are actually supposed to be in summer school. Because they got bad marks, but instead they're just at wit's end every day, and no one knows that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, so it sounds like the summer's almost over. So I don't know how that's going to resolve. They don't live in Odyssey.
No, I was just like, oh, thank God. Does that mean the series
They're
is ending?
almost free.
Does that mean we're free? And then I realized there's more books, and I was like, no!
Yeah, there's still like 16 more books.
I know.
We're less than a third of the way through the books that are currently published already.
I'm just waiting for someone to just tell us how all the books end and spoil all of them for us.
And then we don't have to.
And then they have to be like, "It's okay.
You're free.
You're free now."
They've given us the sock.
I'll just fall into their arms and weep. And yeah.
Yeah. So
and then I can leave.
So finally, at this point, we finally start learning a little bit about the kid's personality and stuff like that. And I'm like, that is as much a compliment to the opening of this book as much as it's a bash on the entire series up to this point.
Maybe we can just pretend that none of that stuff has happened before. Maybe we can just pretend this is the first book.
Yeah. That's all the pilot. That's all the non-canon pilot before.
Everything with Wit's ring, everything with Wit not being able to go in, everything with Lord Darkthorn.
Mm-hmm.
No mention of it.
How the Imagination Station uses jewelry's biometric security identification.
No mention of it.
So speaking of, Marshall's fixing things up. Because I was like, oh man, the program this time, they didn't have to dress in clothes. It's like, oh, the program will do that for you.
He didn't have to, give them stuff.
Exactly.
I was so happy about that.
The station is like, oh, the magical MacGuffins will just appear in your pockets. I'm like, that acknowledges already a lot more than we've got so far. Marshall's slowly turning the series back over to Sans. Also, note how they didn't have to climb out of the station to be in their location. It just kind of is around them suddenly.
Yeah, and then it just appeared at the end when they needed it.
Yeah, I know that effect has varied throughout the history of the audio series, like whether you have to get out of the station or it's like, I'm here or whatever, or I go through a door or whatnot. But within the context of these books, it's just like blow after blow of this can no longer be confused for an actual time machine. This is clearly all happening virtually, which is very exciting to me, even if it does cut off our precious goof faucet.
I don't want it, so they can have it. Also, like, yeah, like you said, Whit didn't give him items and be like, you'll know when to use this. We've talked about that, and I don't need to talk about that.
What did Beth even get? I don't remember. One of them had a Bible. What was the other one?
No, they didn't. They got, like, a book of hieroglyphic
translations
and a Bible.
Yeah.
But, like, they just had it, and I was like, okay, Whit didn't say, like, oh, you're going to need to use this. Is there just going to be a moment where they're just like, we have to give this to someone? But instead, they just, like, they saw hieroglyphics, they checked what the hieroglyphics were, and then they showed a Bible to someone at one point, and they kept all of it with them, and then they left. And I was just like, thank you!
I'd like to talk about how she's like, hey, Hebrews, you can chill. You know why? Because I have a book with the future in it, and they didn't stone her to death for some reason.
Yeah.
She's like, you can chill, because here's a book that says exactly what happened to you and what will happen to you. This is the whole Old Testament. You can literally read ahead for like 2,000 years from your current situation. Babylon, the Maccabees, what do you want to know? We got it all here. I guess the Maccabees isn't really in there, but
and
whatever.
Then
Maybe it's a Catholic Old Testament. I don't know.
Okay, I believe you. And then Beth and Patrick leave and the book ends.
Yeah, they're like, this fills us with hope. We trust that what you're saying is true. Doesn't seem suspicious to me.
That's literally all they say. It's just like one sentence. And then the book ends. And like...
So, the kids arrive in the marketplace. It's a very Aladdin kind of scene. With like, stop, thief, street rat, all that stuff as they try to like get Tabitha back because she's a escaped slave.
This Tabitha runs up to him and then she's just like, oh my gosh, I'm being chased, they're gonna kidnap me. And I'm like, you're being chased or you're being kidnapped? And then and she's like, pretend you're my friend. And I'm thinking like, how will that help? But okay. And then
she can blend into a crowd.
And she's like, say something to me,
like
laugh at something. And then they're like, ah, and then the people like start coming closer, like they just basically like come into the area, and then immediately like without like instead of trying to keep on doing what she's doing, she's like, we have to run now. And I'm like, they didn't even look. Well, no,
she's like, they're not buying it, kind of thing, right? It's like in Hitman, you're like blending in a crowd, that person won't see me who I'm wearing like same disguise, and they get closer and it starts going like as the arrow gets stronger, and you're like, aw, dang, I need to run for it.
No, but, like, it looked like they hadn't even noticed her, and then all of a sudden she just started running. I'm like, well, now you're suspicious.
They'll never find me now. I found it interesting about the marketplace that they were apparently selling canopic jars.
Bless you.
Like, who aren't those wouldn't only royalty or whatever high people, like, have, like, only high people, you know what I mean, be buying like canopic jars.
That's where
there's
they
no
put
other
their drugs.
There's no other reason you'd have 4 clay jars in a set of 4 topped with a dog, bird, alligator, and human heads. Those are clearly canopic jars, and I'm like, I feel like that's not a thing you buy at the marketplace. Just like, oh, nice, put those on my shelf, and they'll just kind of sit there like a hope chest until one day when I put my internal organs in them.
Like a hope chest. Exactly like a hope chest.
It's like my death dowry. For when I marry Anubis.
Can you imagine if, like, Dorian Gray had something like that? Like,
it does sound very
like
Dorian Gray.
Like, he just gave it to Basil's daughter.
Would he be fine?
Yeah, probably.
He just cuts out his organs, and then the painting's, like, all, like, blah.
And the painting's like that anyway.
I know, but, like, even more so, I imagine.
And then, like, he just shows it to Basil, and Basil's like, give me proof that you're immortal. And he's just like, look in these canopic jars. He said, why do you have these?
All right, you're under arrest because you probably killed someone.
And Dorian's like, true, but these are actually mine.
That is beside the point.
Are you what? Oh wait, no, Basil is the guy he killed. I'm thinking of someone else. Okay. What's
Basil? I don't know. I haven't read it.
Oh wait, no, Basil isn't dead. The guy who painted the painting, he kills because Dorian is like, I need to show you something because I feel bad. And then the guy's like, because the guy makes the painting, and he's like, this is the nicest thing I've ever painted. Mm-hmm. I know I gave it to you, but I was wondering if I could, like, display it at an art gallery for this event.
Well, it won't be nice for long.
And Dorian's like, oh, no, you can't do that. And he's like, why not? You used to so proudly put it on display.
Don't look upon my shame.
And then all of a sudden you just, like, you hid it, and now no one can look at it, and it was, like, really important to me that you owned it, and I love you, but and can I see it? And Dorian's like, yes! And then he shows him in the attic, and then the guy sees it, he's like, what happened? And Dorian's like, no one can know my shame, and then he stabs him, and then he carries him outside, and he puts him, like, in a coffin, and then he starts, like, it's legit that scene from Young Frankenstein where they have a dead body. And
I haven't seen Young Frankenstein.
I know, you need to watch it. And then they put, like, they have, like, a coffin, and they're putting it on a cart.
this is the end of our regular...
And then the policeman walks by, he's like, oh, that coffin looks heavy. Do you need help? So it's like
social disorder, is what
you're
saying,
he's like,
episode 1.
Do you need help? And he's like, yeah, it's super heavy. And then he helps him carry it to the
This
river.
Is the end. This is the end of our usual 19th century literature portion of the podcast featuring Victoria. It's just like that section in BTV Obedience where, like, Edwin comes out and sings a silly song or whatever.
Silly songs with Edwin.
So yeah, it's pretty easy to see pretty quick for most people what period of history that we're going on in here. And I thought it was really interesting because I've never really seen a story like focus in on this particular point of history, this like Exodus chapter 1, like way pre-Moses but post-Joseph, and kind of look at the dynamic of as history is drastically changing.
I thought it was a cool time period. I didn't figure out what time period it was.
But I just thought it was cool in general. I'm like, oh, this seems chill. I was
like, oh man, slavery.
Yeah, slavery. Let me give that a try.
Said not Patrick.
Yeah.
Said Patrick, because he was like, this will be easy.
Yeah.
No problem. I got this.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of an interesting, like, expounding on that very narrowly described period. I just like the way it bridges Genesis and Exodus together. I feel like most stories concerning Moses don't really focus on the nature of that transition from Joseph's time. Like, even in the beginning of the Prince of Egypt, like, obviously we see, like, oh, we're oppressing the Hebrews now, and the midwives and stuff like that, and we got to throw the babies in the basket. But we still don't kind of appreciate like what was life in Egypt like for the Hebrews before that. How was that informed by the role that Joseph had in Egypt, and how that informed, because when the other Israelites came, it was literally like the rest of the country was his brothers and his dad, and that was it. And so they got in on the ground floor of that country established in Egypt. Is Joseph's descendant, yeah.
Granddaughter sounds like
great granddaughter, I think. Like that.
I thought it was more direct than that.
No, it was farther down.
They never call him by Joseph.
Well, they do. The guy in the jail cell didn't. He called him by his, like, Egyptian name.
What was his Egyptian?
It was like, it was something that was long with 2 words and hyphenated.
And some birds.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I thought it was cool because they never look at like, oh, here's what it was like for the Hebrews beforehand. And here's why, because of Joseph, and here's how that kind of all informed that history and how it went for them. And look at that with relation to how things changed when the new Pharaoh took over and kind of mixed everything up in Exodus 1. I thought that was good. Also, like the red herring, that you expect the prince's tomb in the title to be Lahif's, because you're like, oh, there's a prince's tomb, this kid's gonna die. Especially because you're like, oh, Moses is gonna come in here.
I mean, I didn't
angel of death is gonna kill this kid, and then we're gonna go to his tomb, and that's the secret of the prince's tomb. But I never
thought that would happen, because I didn't know what time period it was.
I know, but it was a red herring. Victoria didn't fall for it. It was a red herring.
I'm too smart.
Turns out the prince's tomb was Joseph the whole time, because Moses ain't gonna be around for a long, long time. As we mentioned earlier, when they're in the tomb, kids absolutely could have killed that guard. I absolutely thought that they did, because they're like, hey, let's make him fall into this deep, deep well in the pitch black by himself, where he is going to drown or just swim until he starves to death and dies from exhaustion.
It was really funny, because I was in the room when Devin was reading it, and he read it before me, and he yelled, oh my gosh, Beth and Patrick just killed a man! And I was like, that's funny, are you serious? The blackbird virus must have gotten into their brains. And then a moment later he was like, wait, no, almost death. And I was like, aw.
But here's the thing, they were like...
And he's like, also they're grave robbing. I was like, are you serious?
I was like, I could not be any more serious. There's literally no hyperbole happening here. And
I was like, wait,
I'm never hyperbolic.
They're plundering jewels. Nope, the body. Like,
they're literally
Victor
stealing a corpse.
style.
They're like, we don't care about jewels, we don't care about no treasure. Like the previous books, where we're like trying to find artifacts in history. No, we are here to steal a dead human corpse.
Also, can I just say, there are so many things that are like in place to make it literally almost impossible to steal mummies. Like, especially from tombs. So, like, when they're like, oh, no biggie, we're gonna grave rob. I was like, yeah, no. And then I was
they
like,
get crushed by a giant Indiana Jones boulder.
At least be something. And then they're just like, oh, gotta tiptoe around these spikes right here. Perfect. Now, on to the body. And I was like,
in fairness, they probably wouldn't have found it if they didn't have inside knowledge that told them how to open the door.
Still, I feel like it would have been really hard. Like, most of these
I also like how they're like, don't pull the
tombs-
rope, that'll be a trap. And he's like, "Nyeh," and then pulls it anyways.
Like, lots of tombs, I don't know if Joseph's would have been the same, but, like, lots of tombs are built in a way where if you open them in a certain way or go in from a certain pathway, it either, like, crushes the body or it causes a cave-in, so you can't reach the body, because sometimes they might consider the body being crushed to be, like, disrespectful, and, like, they can't live on in the afterworld, so I'm thinking, like, cave-in is more likely.
The mutually assured destruction.
Or they, like, just make fire everywhere. But the point is, you're not getting to the body, especially not two dumb children who spend all their time complaining about going back to school after summer break.
I feel like because he was not a pharaoh, it's like, oh, you still get to be in the Valley of the Kings, is what it sounds like where they were.
But you don't get the cool booby
You get
traps.
some booby traps, which they saw. You get a little bit.
You get the Phantom of the Opera movie pit.
I mean, hey,
that's it.
It was enough for the guard. Anyways, back to that. So he falls down the well. I'm like, he is 100% dead. Granted, not a real human being. He is a computer program. And finally, that's probably why in this book, they were like, hey, we need some plausible deniability that these kids didn't just do a murder. So yes, this isn't real-time travel, so we can cover our butts on that front.
Also, another guard comes in, and the guard, like, sees them.
So they throw him into the well. I'm like, okay, he is Hondo P dead. And then they're like, oh, we'll throw the rope down, which is attached to a little hook that's screwed into the rock. I'm like, this rope is designed to hold one bucket of water. They have no reason to believe that this well rope and the hook it is attached to could support the weight of a grown human man trying to scale this wall. They had no way of knowing that they would run into another guard, that they could be like, hey, there's someone drowning in there. Reasonably, they could have run into no other guards, and that rope would have snapped under the guy's weight. He's deep in the darkness in this tomb. No one would ever hear him scream down in this sealed, abandoned tomb until he was long, long dead.
They throw the rope, and the bucket hits him in the head.
And he passes out
and drowns. And I'm like, this is horrific.
Another entirely reasonable scenario.
And I was just like, oh, I can understand why Devin would say he's dead. He's not dead. They throw the bucket, and I'm like, well, now he is.
It's like Jeff's mom in the water bucket over the door. They're like, hey, we have this bucket full of water. We'll just like, whoop, just let that go and fall. Honestly,
like, it's basically the same effect as Macaulay Culkin throwing bricks at burglars.
Yes. Multiple times in succession. And then they think they're safe.
But it turns out he still has a pile of bricks that wait to be thrown. and then another guard comes in, he sees them, and then, like, it's Looney Tunes or something like that. They, like, point back there, and they say, there's a guard over there, he needs help, and the guard yells, help! And then the man looks at them, and then he goes to save the guard. And I was like, okay, you know what you do? You have a sword. They clearly just tried to grave rob. What you do is you stab them, and then you go help your friend. Imagination Station adventure over.
When do you think the kids are gonna learn that, like, you can just, like lucid dream in the Imagination Station?
I pray to God they never do. They never learn. What do you mean? What episode?
Well, you know, that was the whole thing about A Touch of Healing, right? It's just like, oh, it's all in your imagination. You can, like, do whatever if you just think about it.
I mean, that's not in place anymore, though.
Well, no, they removed, like, specific stuff, but that's still, it's still based on your imagination.
Yeah, but, like, not
he shut down the Imagination Station, and he's like, no. But, no, that should have conceptually
also,
always been a part of it.
Touch of Healing, that happens after Black's Revenge, right?
No, it's in album 24. It happens before Darkness Before Dawn.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't they have taken out, like, a bunch of that stuff with Blackguard's Revenge? Also, they've completely revamped the Imagination
Whit made it clear he had
a bunch.
backups of all the programs. The only
like,
thing that he lost was the time it would take to, like, back up the hard drive after he, like, reformats
Blackguard
it.
was basically able to use, like, the lucid dreaming thing with Aubrey, because he was able to, like, send her to wherever she wanted. But I don't know if that's just because he hijacked everything, but there had to be, like, an element of lucid dreaming, probably.
Well, in reality, isn't that what, like, all of it is about, really? Everything that you're doing, because you just assume you're going to do it, and so you do it.
My face hurts.
So they get back, and they're like, hey, we found his bones, we left him there, but believe us, because we're telling the truth, because you just met us today, and we look like rich Egyptians who aren't Hebrews, who are now casting you guys into slavery, and we haven't done literally anything to make you believe or trust us yet, because we just met you, and you don't really know us, but hey, Joseph's bones, totes still there, and
also,
they're like, okay.
There's that one part
also, we have a book of the future.
There's that one part with, like, Eve. Am I saying
yes.
that right? Where they were asking, like, why Tabitha and all the Hebrews were, like, in trouble. And he's like, oh, it's because they don't worship our gods. They only worship one. And then Beth and Patrick are like, oh, we're the same. And Eve was like, well, I guess I have to kill you now. And they're just like, but here's the thing.
Don't consider this.
What if you didn't? And then he's just like,
fair point.
Good point. And then
compelling. And
then he's just like, give me a reason why. And they're like, we're friends. He's like, I've known you for all of 10 seconds. It's like,
you haven't killed Tabitha. He was like, can't argue with that.
And then they're like, friendship has to start somewhere, doesn't it? And he's like, I guess you're right. And they never see him again after that.
Persuasion 100. That was a nat 20 persuasion.
Oh my god.
I legally have to kill you. But consider this. Don't.
Consider this. I wouldn't like that, and I'd be dead? Oh, crap. You right.
Oh, dear goodness. I'd like to thank you for bringing me back around to that point. I know that, you know, we get a lot of kind of Christian stuff that's aligned around the same sort of stuff as Focus likes to put a whole penchant on the idea of, like, oh, as Christians in North America, we are ridiculously oppressed by everyone and dole out no oppression in return. I think personally it would have been a lot better for children reading it at the beginning, when Wit's like, hey, sometimes people don't believe in God, make fun of people who do believe in God. Like, literally the power, the importance of also, and saying, like, and sometimes people who do believe in God make fun of people who don't. Like, just consider, for young mind, like, kind of the way that they process those two different pieces of information. Like,
and sometimes people who don't, and sometimes people who do. Yeah.
Like, if you put, oh, sometimes people don't believe in God, they oppress people who do. What happens in that thing is you build this mindset in a kid that's like, oh, I need to, like, watch out for this, and when it happens, and it's just like, oh, that's what they're talking about. I'm being oppressed here because someone did something to me.
I'm being oppressed! And you start ringing a cowbell, and you're like, I'm being oppressed, everyone.
But here's the other thing. If you do, like, oh, sometimes it happens, sometimes it's the other way around. Here's what a kid says. Wait, but I believe in God, so I could do that. Better make sure I don't. Better keep on the lookout. Make sure I don't do that. And then when they're in situations, they're like, hey, I don't want that to happen to me. Better make sure it doesn't happen to me. Also, make sure I'm not doing it to other people because Wit said not to. And so I would have appreciated if that was included. I think that's an important thing for kids to understand. The amount of privilege that Christians have in North American culture, despite what some of them think. And so, yeah, we come to the end and they're like, oh, cool, you got the bones. Okay, I guess we can, you know what they say in Kimmy Schmidt, you can endure anything for 10 seconds and then for another 10 seconds and then just translate that to like 200 years and just keep on counting to 10, one set at a time for the next 8 generations.
There's this musical that's called The Last 5 Years, and there's a song called For the Next 10 Minutes, and it's about this guy talking to his girlfriend, and he's like, and it's Jeremy Jordan and Anna Kendrick in the movie, and he's just like, hey, and she's like, I don't know if I could get married. It's like it's like a big thing. And he's like, okay, but what if like we're married for 10 minutes and then we just do that for another 10 minutes and we just keep on going. And the story begins with them being like, yeah, we're super divorced. And I'm like, I wonder why.
Bro, it's not gay if you're only married for 10 minutes at a time and then another 10 minutes and another 10 minutes.
And then he's just like, and then if the 10 minutes don't go good, then we stop. And I'm like, why did you wonder why you got divorced?
Isn't that the plot of like what happened in Vegas?
Pretty much, kind of, but that ended good.
No, wait, that actually is the plot of like a different movie, right?
No, wait, that's not the plot of what happened in Vegas.
I know.
The money. I love that movie.
So yeah, I really thought Leaf would play a lot more into the plot than this. At TBH, like at the end, and we come and he doesn't show up again. I'm like, okay, I guess that was his whole role then.
There were so many things where it's just like, are we? Oh no! Okay. It's okay.
Sure, let's go with
over.
And then at the end, of like, oh boy, G. Willikers, Mr. Whitaker, that was like a cool adventure. I wish everything.
Just like, oh hey, that one boy that was dying. Not as dead anymore, hooray!
They're like, gee, Mr. Whitaker, I sure wish that, like, all school that we learn could be, like, an imagination
Mr.
station.
Willikers,
Yeah. And I was like, so that's what this arc is we're just teaching school stuff through the imagination station? Next time, we get to go meet Newton or Leibniz and learn the history of calculus.
Next time, we're gonna go into the Book of Numbers and do math.
Hey! We're gonna practice some census multiplication.
Ooh, we're gonna learn about biology and sex ed in Song of Solomon.
Oh, good jokes. Good jokes.
Funny joke.
So, next book is Mystery of Starlight Island. I saw a couple keywords in the description.
This is going to be on geography.
It's in the South Pacific in the 1800s, 1841, I think, so I have no idea what it's about. At first I thought it said 1941, and I was like, oh, this is when they rescued the president in that one episode, in something significant.
We're going to learn about...
Except then I was like, wait, that's 1841. I have no idea what the story is.
We're going to learn about how to debate in the Book of Judges.
We're going to learn about medical hygiene in Leviticus.
No. It hurts to laugh. So
Victoria got a filling earlier today.
Everything hurts.
So, that is... well, that's not what we're doing next time. That's the next Imagination Station book. When will we get to that?
That better not be what we're doing next time.
When are we going to do that?
I need a break.
Probably sooner than you want.
Which means eventually.
Yeah, which means anytime before the heat death of the universe. Next time, we're talking about the November episode of the AIOC, which is the Nouveau Olivia.
And with that one, we're going to be doing The Star Part 1.
Yeah, time to get all Christmas.
Merry
Chrysler.
Merry Chrysler. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Christmasical roll. Yeah.
What?
Like Christmas, so like crits, like a die crits. Like
yeah, I know.
Roll.
But like. Okay.
Twits and Christmas. Heroes and half Christmas. That's next time. Thank you for joining us on a Real Play D&D podcast, The Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. Until next time, I've been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And I am in pain from your jokes and my
and
pain.
Also Novocaine.
Also actual pain.
That's the end. Goodbye. Merry Christmas. It'll probably be the last episode before Christmas.
Chrysler. Merry Christmas.
You just have to keep it going, don't you? You just can't let me have a place to stop.
Mr. YouTube needs...
It's Christmas, for goodness sake.
Christmas.
Have you no charity? Can you not let the video end? Goodbye.
Are there no workhouses?
We just need to let this recording die and decrease the surplus YouTube population. I said good day, sir.